I think it's 3:35 now, so I'm gonna start. So just a very, very quick introductions before I jump into the slides and everything. So my name is Son and I am representing Vipro, and having the conversation with me at the moment is Jenny. So Jenny is our very special guest today, and she's gonna talk loads about how to have an effective and smart studying. So I'm sure it's gonna be a really useful sessions ahead of us for this beautiful afternoon. I think the weather is getting better. So just before we get into the details of what Jenny is about to deliver, I'm just gonna share my screen, gonna go through some of the very background informations of our campaign, why are we here, and what we do. So if I just gonna start my screen now, sharing my screen. So Jenny, can you see my screen and everyone else? Yep, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, official welcome to our fourth webinar, How to Study Smart. This is the fourth webinar of our campaign, a series of webinars as part of the SkillQuest campaign that Vipro is organizing to support the COVID-19 impact as a fundraiser. So who are we? I'm pretty sure, and I hope that if people sign up for this webinar, some of you might have heard of us. So we're Vipro, Vietnamese professionals in the UK. So we are a community including everyone, literally everyone, the young professionals, the students. It's currently working, studying, or used to study in the UK. So our main aim is really just to provide a platform for everyone to connect, to have a bit of fun, to see each other, support, help. And also one of our main aim is also to do something meaningful, something helpful to give back to the community. So that's something we're really passionate about. And then that sort of bring on to what we do here. So as you all imagine, we're living, as we discussed briefly before the talk as well, we're living in a very strange time. COVID-19 has impacted everyone, I'm pretty sure. But on the bright side, suddenly we do have, we find ourselves having loads of free time. And I don't know about you, but I do have loads of free time. And we're thinking about, with this free time, let's just do something like as Vipro to connect people together, to make sure we keep in touch. And then by saying keeping in touch, let's do something that we can all learn from. We can all sharing ideas, bouncing ideas, and people can actually get out of the quarantine, get out of a lockdown and thinking, yeah, I actually do something new, something fun. So that's why we got this campaign called SkillQuest. This is including a series of 12 webinars. So we're starting in mid-May and is running until the 14th of June. So every Saturday and Sunday, we have a special guest. They could be anyone, who could be somebody who already been very successful in what they do, or maybe just started the journey with some interesting experiences to share with us. And the webinars is all about, as you can see here, very big on the screen, power up your skills. So the skill could be anything, but we're focusing on the three main themes of topics: personal development, lifestyle well-being, and creativity. So in the previous webinars, we know a bit about literally everything. We know a bit about yoga, how to live green, how to do podcasts. So today we learn about how to study smart. And there's going to be so many other exciting sort of topics waiting ahead as well. And if you find this webinar, this particular webinar, or other webinars that we're going to organize in the future helpful, we really want you to do just two things. The first one is very simple, and you can do it literally just now and throughout this session today. It's just to be very interactive. Yeah, just ask any questions, or if you have any thoughts, anything that you want to comment, just put it in the chat sections, or put in the Q&A if you want to ask Jenny your questions as well. We really want to make it very interactive, very fun, so we can all enjoy it. And the second thing is, if you find it helpful, please also thinking about making a donation. So what's the donation is for? And this is why we're doing, one of the main purpose of doing this campaign. So we partnering with Blue Dragon's Emergence Children Foundation as part of our campaign in order to help the people who has been very impacted by the COVID-19. So why we choose Blue Dragon and what are they? So Blue Dragon is obviously a children's foundation. I think they started in 2003. So over the past 20 years, they have done some really amazing work. You can obviously search on their websites as well, but they have done some amazing work for the children, for all the vulnerable people who has been experiences really difficult life situations, giving them financial support, but also the mental health help and also all the other different types of support. And they have been around in Vietnam in everywhere, literally from rural areas or like the city lives as well. So they do really great things and they're very trusted, and they have very special meaning to us in terms of, oh, this is the place where we can trust and we want to do some help. We want to partner with them in order to deliver this project. And then going back to the situations of COVID-19 and why we're here. As you all know, we're all impacted, but think about the people who were already vulnerable before the COVID-19 must have been the people who can really feel the issues, the difficulties, the harsh reality now. And you can see on the screen here, there's some very sad, I would say very sort of pessimistic statistic about how people are actually experiencing life after COVID-19. And I just want to, obviously this is a very crucial time for us to all come together, and we're all in this together and we're definitely going to get through it together. And in order to do that, we just want to think about, okay, if you can make a donation, that would be so great. And every donation helps as well. And this is why we're doing this campaign. We just want everyone to show the support and to be together. As you can see on the screen here, the big slogan, in time of deep crisis like this, solidarity is the only vaccine. So how could you donate? How you can make an impact? How you could be a part of this campaign? Two things. One thing is, if you can just follow the link we're going to put on the chat sections. So one of our VPRO members is going to put it on the chat sections. You can just click on that. It's going to get you straight to the donation page. Of course, it's also on our Facebook page. You can easily find it if you want to do it after the sessions. Or because we're living in a very high-tech world, so all you need to do is just put on your smartphone, scan the QR code, and it's also going to get you straight to the donation page. And in order to do this long campaign, we just want to give a special shout out, special thanks to our partners, the Overseas Vietnamese, the Vietnam Finance Society, the Vietnamese Family Partnership, and the amazing artworks by our design, Sun Phan and Gideon. And this, I promise, this is my last boring slide before I give it all to Jenny. Just very simple house rules. Unfortunately, only me and Jenny will have the audios and screen enabled during the whole chat. Please submit your question to the Q&A sections and comments if you have any comments, if you like some ideas, or you just want to discuss with your friends about what you hear, just put it on the chat sections. And of course, we're going to have, as usual, we're going to have the solid 10 to 15 minutes at the end for the Q&A. But you can ask any question throughout the webinars as well. And you can vote others' question using the light thumb. And of course, if you submit the question with your name, I'm going to give you a chance to actually directly talk to Jenny today to ask the questions. If you're not feeling confident enough, I'm going to do it on your behalf and you don't have to put your name on. So we can just ask it for you. And just to really understand a little bit more about our demographic today, I'm just going to run the first poll of today just to see basically what we're thinking about the topics today. So me and Jenny talked about this before we start this webinar, and we did really discuss about, okay, what's the biggest obstacles in studying? So I'm gonna launch my poll now, and if people can just have a read and then think about what's your biggest challenge in studying, and then obviously we can discuss about it, and Jenny will have some follow up in terms of how we can tackle this towards the end of the show. So yeah, I can see people start pulling some numbers now. And I'm going to give about 5 more seconds for people to vote. I don't know, Jenny, can you see the results as well? Or is it
no, I haven't seen any result yet.
I'm going to end my polling now, and then now you can see. Can you see it now?
Ah,
Ooh.
yeah, okay. Focus is like almost 50%, isn't it? 50%
Is that what
of
you expected,
the
or is it
attendees.
not?
Yeah, I kind of, because actually I have the same problem, but it actually feels like I have all the problems. But I want to know whether whether what part of my presentations would be more helpful for most of the attendees here.
And yeah, of course, if you some people put other, so if you've got any other sort of obstacles, please put in the chat sections as well. And now, without further ado, I'm going to give all the spotlight to you, Jenny, and then you can amaze us with your great slides that you pull out.
Great. Hi everybody. It's such a great pleasure to be here today to talk to you about a topic that I'm so passionate about. It's a shame that I cannot see all your faces because of the setup. But I believe that if you decide to spend your time, your precious time, many of you are from Vietnam. It's pretty late now. Then also it's weekend. So thank you very much for taking your time to join me, but also it shows that you care about this, you want to improve. And that's the very, very first important thing that we all want to, isn't it? So I would like to share my screen now. If hopefully you can see that. Yeah. Actually, I cannot see any chat right now, any of your questions, but I believe that Sun will be taking the questions in the middle of the presentation. If you have any questions that you feel I may be able to answer, may be able to help, please do. Right, so the presentation today is actually based on something I'm really, really passionate about, how to study, but then also how to study smart, because many of us have been studying really, really hard. We spend so long, many hours, read many books, and then you realize that maybe it's not as effective as it could have been. So actually I put in brackets the word smart, because in the end, maybe you will tell me that what I will be telling you is not how to study smart, but actually how to study hard. So we all know that all of the children, when you were a child, and also you see the children right now, we are just forced to enter the formal education from the age of 5 or age of 6, and are expected to perform well. We are expected to sit down at a desk and then to perform, and we are examined at the end of the year. So the question is, nobody teaches us how to study, but they expect that you know how to study, right? So it's kind of like a really great contrast to writing or reading or doing maths. We are taught to do those things, but we are not taught to how to study. Well, so let's say study doesn't come with a manual. So it's not like you buy something from IKEA and then it comes with a manual to tell you exactly how to assemble furniture. But study doesn't come with a manual. So can you actually write your own manual? So I have a secret. It's all about, can you guess what this is all about? It's all about you, right? So it's all about you, because they expect, they here, your teachers, the society, your parents expect that you know how to study. And I have to be honest, it is the end of the presentation. There's nothing more. It's all about you. You have to figure it out yourself. Well, but I'll try to be a little bit more helpful by telling you a little bit about how you can actually write your own manual. Isn't it what you expect? When we think about a better student, we think about, well, maybe because they're all more intelligent, because they have better brain, because they are genius. So there's a sort of assumption that there is a causality between intelligence and study results. I have to say, in a way, you know, there's a correlation. If you're a bit smarter, if you're born quite differently from you know, the rest of or the quotidians, then you could, you know, you have a lot more potential to become a better student. But how about the 99% of the world, or 99.99% of the world? If we are not born with the biggest brain, the most amazing brain, like, to be honest, Einstein was born with a very, very special brain. So that's why he's a genius, but you know, the rest of us are not. So I have to say, yes, you have to start with mind. So you, in order to become a good student or to be good at studying, you have to have a great mind. But I'm not saying that's just the mind. You should also think about your body as well. So imagine, have you ever studied well when you're sick? Well, I don't think so. I think that you have to have a body and mind together. But if you think about, let's say, I can't say 99.99%, but it could be like 70% of us have pretty okay mind, pretty okay brain, you know, healthy body. Why can't we actually be a good student? The difference is also lying in the system as well. So it has to have 3 categories that we need to improve, and build your own manuals based on 3 categories: your mind, your body, and your system. So let's tackle each of these categories. So with your mind, we think of the mind. So let's say the very first thing is, if you are born with a good brain, yes, great, amazing, but that is not all. It's not that all the genius would turn out to be a really good students. They may be a genius at one thing, but they may be very bad at other things. So let's say if we leave it aside, the born factor, then we still have other things that could help us to have a great mind, the great mind that is ready for study. So you should have attitude, training, and also something else, and we're going to discuss it later on. Let's go with the very first thing, attitude. So the very, very important thing that you need to have a strong belief that you can. So if you know that there are a very, very famous saying by Roosevelt saying, believe you can, and you're halfway there. You're already halfway there if you believe that you can be a good student, that you can study something. I have encountered so many students who say to me, oh, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. Math is way too complicated for me. English is way too complicated for me, blah, blah, blah. I've heard that so many times. But let's put it aside. I do understand that a lot of subjects are difficult. For me, it's physics. But I do believe that somehow I can understand this. It's not about ambitions. It's not about a very what is it called? It's not about a blind belief. It's a belief in yourself and your ability to overcome any of the obstacles. So the very first thing, believe you can. Now, I have one tip for you. You have to say it out loud, okay? Before you actually try to do something, you try to study anything, you say it out loud to yourself. I believe I can do this. Even though deep inside, you're like, oh my God, it is hard. But say it out loud, because the very first thing, if you say it out loud, at least you are already half belief. And if you say it out loud, that doesn't help much. Try to print out a quote and put it in front of you. I always have a quote in front of me, and that's the quote I've just told you from Roosevelt. Believe you can, and you're already halfway there. Because there's so many things in life. If you tell your brain what you can do, your brain would try to do it. All right, at least. Another thing about attitude is gratitude. Now, I don't want to get into like writing journals about, oh, I love life. I'm so grateful for my well-being or my existence. No, I'm not talking about that. Gratitude here, in a sense, for your study, is to understand what you already have. in hand. Because if you compare your situation now to like when, I don't know, the people like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they managed to fly to the moon with something that is even less powerful than your iPhone in your hand. So there's no way that you can't work it out how to solve these issues, right? You know, one math problem. So think about this. I used to study with just pen, paper, and a textbook. And now I see my students with all this internet access, this iPad, this iPhone, and then they ask me very sort of, I don't know, very trivial questions. What is this? I'm like, you can Google it. Why do you ask me, right? Ask me the questions that you cannot Google. So I say, well, think about what you already have and what you can do with what you already have. So for example, if you already have a laptop, if you have internet access, if you already have access to a library, if you have access to, you know, a good friend, to a friend of family who knows something, then think about what you already have. You have this network, you have this, all sorts of the environment is giving you. So think about that and feel that how you can maximize what you can do. Because I believe that education doesn't happen based on, you know, just like this specific location is not rationed by locations, but it's more about what you're trying to maximize what you already have. So now you can see that due to COVID-19, a lot of students have to study online, and you suddenly realize that there are plenty of things online that you can access, that you don't even have to move, you don't even have to pay. So that is exactly what I'm thinking about. The third thing, trust me, this is the third thing about attitude, is the growth mindset. I think maybe some of you, I mean, maybe many of you have heard about the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. You can actually Google it. I'm not going to talk to you about this because I believe that there's a TED talk about growth mindset that you can actually watch and be inspired. But I'm not talking about, you know, the whole thing. I'm just trying to kind of make a few points that I find is very important. First of all, think about failure is okay. I failed in my life, you failed in your life, everybody's failed. Without failure, you can't grow because you already think, hey, everything is so easy, isn't it? So if you fail one exam, it's not the end of the world, to be honest. Even, touch wood, if you fail a really major exam that could change your life, let's say, you know, your university entrance exam, it's not the end of the world, right? So failure is okay. Now, sometimes you face a very harsh teacher who tells you your essay is the worst thing that they ever read. Or I had experience twice in my life. I submitted 3,000 word essays to my professors and he ripped it in front of me. How long have I dedicated myself to writing this essay? And he said, it is rubbish. And he said, my English is bad. He said that nothing in this essay is worth reading, and he ripped it in front of me. I don't lie. It's criticism. It's really hard to take. But then we are best friends now. We are, because I understand that he's trying to criticize me for what I could have done better. So criticism is constructive, believe me. And the third thing is challenge improves me. That's what I believe. So if you don't find that these particular new notions about maths or physics is challenging, it's so easy to absorb. You just throw it out of the window. It's not challenging. Then you don't really feel that you really have to work hard for it. Then it doesn't improve you. There's nothing in this world that's easy, that actually is worth getting. So that is one important thing. If you find something's challenging, and if you can actually get it, then it actually is going to improve you. Now, I say, I'm not going to talk about journaling, but if you can, try to get a notebook or maybe just a notepad or sticky notes. Just write down how you can get better. So if you fail, you can write it down and say, maybe next time I try to time myself a little bit better in exams. If you have a criticism from, you know, for all the things that you dedicate your life in, you could actually say, well, maybe I can take the essence of this criticism and improve in the next time. So the attitude, believe that you can, be grateful for what you have, understand how you can maximize what you already have, and open up your brain, right? So open up for new challenges, open up for criticisms and failure. Now, I understand that this is maybe something that would take time, but I keep thinking attitude is one of the very most first and foremost important thing that every student and every single person would need to work on. But then you ask me, hey, you know, Jenny, how about, can we actually train ourselves to be better? Like, can we train our brain? That is a big, big, big topic that just get people obsessed. If you read Yuval Noah Harari, and you know he's talking about the superhuman, the idea of superhuman in the 21st and 22nd century, that humans are turning themselves, trying to all kind of way to grow their brain, try to replace all the organs to become like a superhuman. Can you actually train your brain the same way that you train your body? I think you can. And I have tried some of these techniques and I want to share with you. It's not the exhaustive list, but I want to share with you some of the techniques. Right, so the first thing, I call it the 4F in trainings. The very first thing is focus. Can you train your brain to focus? Now, I know that almost 46% of you say that it's so tough to focus. So I tell you, I share it with you. It's so difficult to focus. My phone keeps ringing, my iPad keeps showing me notifications, my daughter's out there. Well, even when I was a student, there was no, there was no family, but I still find it's difficult to focus. So I find that the very first technique that changed it is the Pomodoro technique. It's when you actually time yourself for 20 to 25 minutes. And you just tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna just work for this 25 minutes. Why? Because you cannot focus for longer than that. Your brain just gonna get really tired. It's nature, right? It's the way that our brain works. We can't focus for longer. If you sit for the whole 4 hours or 8 hours of the day trying to study something, you will find that for that long period of time, it's not you who focus, it's you sitting, right? So why don't you actually kind of break your study session into smaller chunks of sessions using the Pomodoro technique as a start to help you focus? Don't study for too long because you're gonna get tired. Your body is gonna get really kind of, just sinking it down, and you get distracted one way or another, and you start to check your email, start to check your social media, right? So maybe if you are at home right now, you're living with your family, and you feel like, okay, now I need to just work. You should close your door if you have a separate room, or you should actually show a sign, tell your family or tell the people who share, the space with you, say, if I put this on the wall, it means do not disturb me. And once I'm okay to, blend with the world, I'm going to open my door. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to tell you that I'm ready to socialize. Shut down your phone. I know it's hard, but normally I do have my phone here with me. But if I'm in a very important meeting, if I really need to work, I put it down. I'm serious. I really need to put it down, and I shut down my social media. If you wanted, to focus more, I have a list of a couple of books that really gonna help you. The first book is called Deep Work by Cal Newport, and I think it's a very, very important book to help you if you really want to improve your focus. And I think there is one tip. If you can, take a note of what distracts you. Is it social media? Is it a ring? Is it somebody buzz on the door? Or is it just maybe your dog barking? Then if you keep a note, just a very random note for just a few days, you'll realize that this is what distracts you. And then if you want to focus, if you really want to focus, then you try to eliminate that distraction. So second F is called flow. Now, why I say Pomodoro technique is the first start is because you will soon realize that after 25 minutes, maybe you get in the zone, right? And then you start, your productivity start to increase. And you do not want to leave your desk at all. You start to get in the zone. Now, if you get in the zone, that's great. That's deep work. And to be honest, the people like J.K. Rowling who wrote she wrote the last Harry Potter book when she was in the zone. Bill Gates wrote the final code in the zone. So you want to aim from focus mode to flow mode, right? But try to ensure yourself to take a short break. And during the break, I have a tip for you. Even if you don't work, you're not, sitting down at your desk, you can still make your brain work, because this short break is like 10 minutes break, 5 minutes break. The problem is still lingering in your head, and then your brain still work, trying to figure it out. But then at that time, you're not sitting down, you are walking around, you're getting your steps, right? So keep the problem in your head, make your brain work when you don't work. So number 4, you can train your brain by being forward. Now, forward means you need to challenge yourself a little bit. So make it a little bit harder, a little bit longer every time you try to focus, every time you try to work. Why? I can give you an example. If you start with, I can only focus for 10 minutes, and then I got distracted, then the next time try this time yourself. Maybe you can do it 11 minutes this time. Maybe you can do a bit 12 minutes. And then one day you realize you hit 25 minutes without even thinking about looking at your phone and then waiting for the Pomodoro to ring. Right? And then you suddenly feel like after you master the Pomodoro technique, you get in the zone. And that's when you actually can work really, really deeply and focus. Okay? And I think it's worth celebrating the small wins. If you are into thinking about how your brain works, is that your brain likes things, like to celebrate, right? Your brain likes rewards. So if your brain likes rewards so much, reward it so that it actually feels more motivated the next time you work, right? So for example, I've just finished a course in programming. To be honest, it was hard. But then I feel like, okay, if I give myself a goal, if I finish this course, I'm going to buy myself a new pair of jeans. And I really, really want to buy that jeans, that expensive jeans, but I'm going to hold off until I finish this. So I decided to finish this course without actually a single break and get my pair of jeans. But you say that is not a small win, it's a big win. Yeah, but how about in the middle, right? Between the sessions, if I finish one session, I'm going to color it in my journal. So that feels the feeling of satisfaction. And also I said to myself, if I manage to go to class on time, if I focus in the class, at the end of the day, I'm going to reward myself with ice cream. Right? So reward yourself, celebrate your small win, try to challenge a little bit every single time that you try to work, right? Now, the 4th F would be fun. You would say to me, study is not fun at all. I hate these subjects. I hate this. I hate that. Study can be fun. You can make it fun, right? By, first of all, as I said before, you can reward yourself. Just feeling like you are Mario trying to rescue the princess. But instead, this time, you are Mario trying to get yourself a new pair of jeans. That would be really fun. It's a game. So you can gamify it. There's a few apps on the, I think on Android or, whatever, iOS, you can actually download, and it's actually gamify your habits. It gamify your experience in study. So why not, right? You can gamify it, and then people like games. The second thing you can actually do is to animate. So I have to say, I used to act as a BBC reporter when I was trying to learn to speak English, because I think, being a BBC reporter must be so cool. But then I was like 12 or something. I was like, but I can't at that age. So I try to really pretend. I dress up, I pretend to be a BBC reporter and try to read out loud what, my passage, my reading passage. I find that these, sort of animation, that sort of acting it out really helps me, because it gives me the feeling, the satisfaction and the fun side of studying English, right? And I see also some of my friends who like to decorate their books, decorate their notebooks, because it's so satisfying to look at a very, very beautiful notebook, right? So why not? So make it fun. Now, we have talked about 4 ways, 4 Fs to train your brain. You should try to find a technique that works for you to help you focus. And once you actually learn to focus in a short time, maximize your 25 minutes of focus, you get in the zone of flow. And that is really, really important, to get in the zone of flow if you really want to be productive. And try to challenge yourself a little bit. Try to forward every single day, so you will get better and better. And if you want to get better, reward yourself, make it fun. Okay. Now we're going to talk about something outside of it, etc. Have you heard of nootropics before? I don't know if you heard of nootropics. No. Have you watched Limitless? Have you watched Limitless? The famous movie by Bradley Cooper. It changed my life. It totally changed my life. When I watched it, I can't remember exactly when it was released. But I watched Bradley Cooper from a complete loser, and then he took a smart drug, you know, the smart pill, and suddenly his brain was like 100 times, 1,000 times better, and he turned his life around, and he just suddenly becomes so smart, so fast, and, you know, so alluring in a way. That's exactly the idea of nootropics. So nootropics is basically smart drugs, in other words. But I have to say, I've heard so much, and I also research about what nootropics are out there. I have many students, especially in the top university, try nootropics because they believe that these nootropics, these smart drugs, can make them smarter. And they consume tons amount of caffeine, right? Now, caffeine's from coffee, caffeine from tea, caffeine even from Pro Plus, which is pure form of caffeine. I try them all. To be honest, I try them all. But I had a very embarrassing experience when I took Red Bull and I slept for 30 minutes in library. And I had to say, oh, maybe it doesn't work for me. Everybody's brain is different. And nootropics are very controversial because it's not really conclusive. If you can actually take a smart drug and makes you smarter, everybody's already taking it, right? And I do believe in a bit of natural way, a bit more gradual way, and more scientific way to boost your brain. And I'm going to introduce to you the best, the most effective brain booster in the world. Can anybody guess? I don't know. I think we all know. It's sleep. Sleep is the most important, the most effective, and the best brain booster. Let's call it the smart drug in the world. So let's think about what happens when you don't sleep, right? We all know that. You get tired. It's very hard to focus. You suddenly just forget things. And you get angry, you get moody. It affects your skin, right? It affects your gut. And for long term, it affects your brain. It gives you a bit of cardiovascular, which is a heart issues, right? Heart problems. But if you think that I am lying to you or I'm exaggerating the problem of the sleep deprivation, try not to sleep and you see what happens. And I have to say, once you have the 8 hours sleep, you wake up and feel you are the smartest and brightest person in the world that you can ever be. And I am very bad at tracking my sleep, but I'm trying. I'm still trying to sleep well. And I'm going to introduce you something that is really made popular by Professor Matthew Walker in his book. It's called Why We Sleep. And I think it's just been translated into Vietnamese. And in this book, he do not just tell you about what happens when you don't sleep, but how you can actually sleep better so that your brain gets better, right? So the very first thing, we all know it. Exactly, that's the book, that's the book. Oh, it's the best book changed my life. Yes, it's 8 hours sleep. Now tell me, 7 hours sleep, that works okay. Benjamin Franklin survived on 7 hours sleep. If you research on Benjamin Franklin daily schedule, you see that Benjamin Franklin, one of the best, most famous brain, is multi-talented. He sleeps on 7 hours sleep. Yeah, right. But how? Normally, we are just the 99.99% of the population. So go for what's scientifically proven, 8 hours sleep. Another important thing It's not just like today I'm going to sleep from like 12 o'clock to like 8 a.m. That's okay. It's 8 hours sleep. And then tomorrow I'm going to sleep from like 2 a.m. until like 10 a.m. That works out. No, you should actually respect your circadian rhythm. And, you know, circadian rhythm is your inner clock, right? So if you respect your inner clock, you live longer. And you work with what your body's naturally can do. So you assist what is already in you, is a wonderful world in you, to actually work better. So try to go to sleep, go to bed at the same time, and try to wake up at the same time, right? And I've practiced this for the last year. Put the phone in another room, because when the phone is next to me, I'm just gonna like sneak out, grab my phone, and then, you know, just, I don't know when I'm gonna go to sleep. So put the phone in another room, and then you can actually put an alarm, so that, you know, when you wake up, you can actually have to go to another room or go to kind of like a faraway place. So it actually kind of wakes you up naturally. And have a bedtime routine. You find, you know, you have a bit of problem going to sleep. I find like taking a bit of bath, read. This is important. How you can maximize your brain to work through the problem when you sleep. So it's 8 hours of your life, right? It's a third of your life wasted on sleep. What happens? I really need to finish my homework, right? So normally what I would do is I read something, or I try to work through a very difficult problem, keep it in my head, and go to sleep. So my brains do work, because your brain doesn't go to sleep that way. Your brains still continue working, to be working when you sleep. So you got to think about trying to find maybe a book that's a little bit difficult to go through, maybe a bit of a problem, just kind of go through it a little bit, and then you can go to sleep. So you make your brain work harder. Now, I'm going to introduce you to something a bit controversial. It's called polyphasic sleep. And I tried it when I was finishing my PhD. Polyphasic sleep means that you're going to be waking up for 4 hours, work so hard, and you go to sleep for 25 minutes or 20 minutes. That is what Leonardo da Vinci used for majority of his life. Okay, so I'm not suggesting, because I tried it for a month to finish my PhD, but I don't recommend it for, you know, a very long period of time. Even like scientists actually, you know, sleep scientists, they still find that it's a bit damaging, because the total number of hours you're going to sleep for the whole day is much, much less than the 8 hours sleep that you need. So polyphasic sleep is very good if you are maybe closer to your exams, when you're deep in stress, you have like a deadline to do. You should actually think about, I'm going to work very hard for 4 hours. I'm going to go to sleep for 25 minutes, so that my brains will discard the rubbish that it kind of accumulates your brain, and then you actually will wake up after 25 minutes and feel fresh again. Okay, so that's it. That's what you need to actually train your brain. Of course, the neurologists, you know, and neuroscientists are still very much working in this field. But I find that if you try at least some of these techniques, I tried myself. If you try it, let's see whether it actually can change your brain, can change your mind. Okay. Is there any question for now?
Of course, there are many questions, but I'm just probably for now I'm going to pick the couple of questions who's got the most upvoted. So I've got questions from Bao Khánh Chen. Do you want to? I'm going to enable the audio now, so you can actually directly talk to Minnie, and then
sure.
We will talk. So I just unmute you. So Bao Khánh Chen, do you want to talk to Jenny now?
I think she's still muted. Yeah.
I think I just unmuted.
Hello.
Okay, so all right, I don't know what's happening over there, but so basically her question is, how do you deal with peer pressure? Well, I guess this is in sort of in the context of studying. So interesting questions.
Peer pressure. I have to say it helps, but then also it kills. It helps to actually see that, you know, you always have this sort of question, why they can do it and I can't, but then it kills, because it kind of sort of in a way it discourages you, because you feel inferior. I would suggest, because I'm also dealing with it right now, because I see my friends who go, who went through PhD with me already now, professors. I'm not, so I have to say we all face it, and not just students. But as as a student, I was actually thinking of my friends as I'm setting them as a goal, but I'm also kind of write down about what I can do better or more or differently from what they can. So I'm taking an example. I am so bad at physics. Seriously,
Same.
so bad at physics. I like still now I'm clueless, but I'm trying like to read, but then I don't have the ambition to be a physicist. So that stopped it, right? So you know what you can do, and you actually should write yourself what we call some affirmation, right? So you write yourself some affirmation. If you really get stressed out by your peer pressure, write it down, because it kind of releases the stress. So you write it down and say, okay, today I've seen friend A so good at this, why she got this, da, 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 da. Just keep writing it down, whatever you feel. But then at the end of it, you can write, but I know I can do this, and she or he cannot do this, and I gonna improve. So I am very honest, because I write affirmation pages every few months, because sometimes I see some really crazy peer pressure in my head. But after that, I feel more relieved. And I find that if you actually take your peers as sort of, instead of being your enemies, but as your friend, and think that if they're very good at that, why don't you actually talk to them and say, oh, if you're good at physics, can you help me? And we're going to talk about it later on about support. And maybe it's a good way of thinking that if you can identify people who are better than you, incorporate them into your circle, because there's a famous saying that you are equals to the average of the 5 closest friends. So why don't you actually create a circle of 5 closest friends who are so good at all others, then you suddenly one day become very, very good at all these 5 subjects, right?
I love that. I've turned a little bit of rivalries and peer pressure into opportunity. And I guess that can apply to studying literally a lot.
That's why I like to talk to smart people, because I try, right? I try to absorb what they have.
Okay, I literally got one more question before I can let you sort of obviously carry on with your presentation. So it's from Tien Pham. So I'm gonna unmute you now. Hello, Tien.
Hello, Sun. Hello, chị Tue Anh.
Hello.
So obviously, thank you very much for being here. My questions is around times. As a working person, I find it's hard to 5 times even for sleep. How do you make time for studying while also working?
Yeah, I will. I mean, in later when I talk about system, I'm going to share with you all about scheduling. But I am studying at the moment. I'm working. I'm a mother. I have to do all sort of like the chores around the house. Yes, definitely. You have 24 hours. We also, I also have 24 hours. The best way is to find out when best your brain works. So, for example, I always schedule studying like, that sort of self-study. I study online all the time, and I always schedule is the very first thing in the morning. So I wake up roughly about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I spend about 30 minutes just kind of brush up, get ready, and then I'll just go straight into study. And that is quiet time, first of all. And nobody's awake yet. That's that's very good. You don't really need to tell people off. But also that's when your brain works the best. I believe it depends. You can find that nighttime will be the best for you if you're a night owl. But I find that maybe in the morning when your brain's fresh after a good sleep, then that's the way. And I also try to find a sneaky kind of 30 minutes in between my work time. So if I work and I got very stressed out, I just stop. And then I just do a little bit of like 10 minutes jogging, and then I go to do some like 30 minutes of online study, because it kind of give me a bit of like stress release, and take my mind off work and trying to go to a different mode. And I am very honest, I try to do 30 minutes online study before this session, just before this session, because I know that if I just let this 30 minutes fly out of the window by, you know, drinking, watching, like drinking tea, watching some YouTube, it just wasted, right? So I try to really put it in my schedule and try to find this sneaky 30 minutes.
Okay, then do you
have
any further questions on this, or?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jenny, feel free to carry on. I think we definitely want to revisit the questions later.
Sure. Yeah, so keep sending us questions, and I'll try to go through. So yeah, so we're talking about the mind, and now we're going to talk about the body. So sleep is obviously, it's not just the matter of the mind, but it's also the matter of the body as well. You should sleep well because it affects your body. I'm just going to talk about exercise, and food I'm leave it aside, because I think that everybody's a bit different in terms of what kind of food you should take, or you know, everybody kind of have a different goal in terms of whether you're losing weight, whether you're trying to gain muscles and things like that. So I'm just putting it aside. I'm just going to talk a little about exercise. So when you think about exercise, you think about machos, you think about losing weight or whatever, like beautiful image, but exercise works for your brain, right? So think about what works for your body can also work for your mind. Now, first of all, very, very obvious. When you're sick, you can't focus, you can't work, you can't study. So that is very obvious that there's something kind of connecting there. Now, I use exercise in two different ways. I use it, first of all, to wake my body up. So short exercise, let's say 10 minutes or even less than 10 minutes. I have a pull-ups. I also have I can do like planks. 1 minute plank can just help yourself, can help your brain to and your whole body to wake up, especially when you actually experiencing a bit of brain fog in the afternoon, when you're a bit fatigued and you're a bit like lack of focus. Just get out of your chair, do something like maybe jogging around your room, do a bit of plank, pull-ups, anything you want. Just some short exercise can wake your body up. I dare you to try it. Maybe you will see the difference, right? Now, there's a second way that I use exercise is to help me generate new brain cells. And I believe that there's tons of studies about neurogenesis. And this is kind of a very interesting area of study in neuroscience when they think about, you know, when you are an adult, how can you grow new brain cells? And one of the things that affect the hippocampus areas in your brain is, you know, your exercise. If you exercise, then your brains can generate new brain cells. And these brain cells, the purpose of these brain cells is for memory. So it helps you to learn better, to retain your information. Okay, first of all, I disclaimer here, I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not even trained in neuroanatomy, but I read a lot and I finished a course in neuroanatomy. So sort of like I'm a bit kind of got a huge interest in it, and I see the difference. I see the difference that, for example, I work so hard for like 4 or 5 hours. I just go out, have a bit of a walk for 20 minutes, and then suddenly I figure out, hey, I know the questions, or maybe I have new ideas. So try it for yourself. Walk, run, or do any short exercise. You know, maybe just do something that actually just not good for your body, good for your brain, grow new brain cells and make you more alert. Yeah, we all know that exercise is good for sleep. You know, you sleep better if you exercise, and you will get, you know, your physics look better. So you have more confidence. And if you actually have a stronger self-belief, go back to the very first thing about mind, believe you can. If you can exercise every day, then your brain is already very well disciplined, isn't it? You are already very well disciplined. Then you can do anything. It's just studying, isn't it? So exercise helps you. Right, so that's about body, and I'm going to talk about the thing that I find that most of it kind of like how to do. There's a lot of essays, a lot of articles, a lot of even YouTubes about how to do each of these things. And I find that if you want to be a good student, if you're sick, if you are tired, if your brain just doesn't work, you will fall back to the system, right? If you already have a very good system in place, even when something is going wrong outside, the system will still pull you through. And that's why I find that is very important for every student to have a very good system in note-taking, in practice and testing, in habit formation, and a system of support, right? So let's go to the very first thing. The first system that I think for students particularly very important is note-taking, how to take notes, right? So pen and paper, that is my rule. Pen and paper works much, much better than typing. And we all know that with typing, you can type a lot faster, but then most of the time you're just gonna copy, and maybe it's just too fast, so you do not process any information that you listen in your during your lectures. So when you have to really slowly put it down on paper, you become more selective. But then also the action of writing down, you know, using the pen and moving your body, it actually helps you to remember more, retain more information. Another thing is that you should rephrase what you hear from the lecturer, then, you know, just copy it down, because copying it down is just basic, you know, it's just like dictation, right? So when you were like grade 1 or grade 2, your teacher said whatever and you just wrote down that, you don't really remember. So if you can rephrase what the teacher said to you in your own words, you already double process, right? Using your pen, hear something, rephrase it, put it down, it's double processing. So that actually helps you retain information much, much better. Now, people will say, oh, but you know, there's so much information going on during a lecture. Lecture is just way too fast with the content. They just flip through so quickly. How can I actually take notes? I would say, think of a system of keys. So these keys would help you write faster, would help you annotate your work. So, and it makes sense to you. It makes more sense to you. So for example, if you think about more, if the lecturers say more, you can actually just write an arrow going up. If less, just arrow going down. And sometimes I have a long list of systems that I've used for years. So if the teacher say, read this, I just draw a little window, like a wing. So it kind of mimic the image of like a notebook open up. So just draw this, and if I find that there's a definition that I need to remember, I'll just do a double straight lines, you know, vertical lines like this. So I just note down that is there's a definition I need to remember. So there's many things that you can, many ways to create your keys. You can actually Google it or come up with things that works for you, but it should be very simple. It should be very easy for you to understand, right? And I find that note-taking is a joy in itself. So make your note personal, pretty, cool, whatever you want, right? So I often actually challenge myself to write down the note concisely. So I'm taking an example. If I listen to a lecture right now, I'm going to write maybe 3-4 pages of crazy all over the place notes, but then I will try to sit down after the lecture for 10 minutes, try to concise that in one single page so that I consolidate the information. Or what I can do is, you know, if I have an exam coming up, I need to revise all of the information. So I look through all these pages and I think, okay, now I'm going to sit down without opening the notebook. I'm going to just use one single page or 2 pages to write down what I need to know, right? Think about this. You think that testing is about your ability to memorize, but the teacher think about exam is the way to test your understanding. Because I write exam papers and I know I want to test the student's ability to understand and analyze an issue, like a problem. I don't want the student just to memorize a concept. So don't think just about memorize a concept exactly word by word. Think about whether you understand it or not. So note taking and processing your note after you write it, it's actually very, very important for your understanding. The second system is testing. Now, I'm not talking about the formal tests or exams that we're talking about. It's about test yourself, because as I said just earlier, you want to know whether you understand any of the notions I just taught in lecture today. How do you do it, right? So I have a few tips. First thing first, if you go for any exams, understand the structure of the exam. Even when you are so asleep or just woke up in the morning, you ask yourself, hey, do you know what's the structure of the exam? Do you know what's coming up? Because many students actually would just go into exams and ask themselves, hey, how many sections are there in this exam? And what are they testing us on? Make sure you understand what you are tested on and the structure of the exam. It never pass through your brain, and you will not get 100% exam if you do not understand the structure of it. And deliberate practice. So I can give you an example. I think because you're listening to me in English, so I'm just taking the IELTS test as an example, okay? So the IELTS test got 4 sections, right? So 4 parts, listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Now people think about practice mean, oh, I'm gonna have to like spend 3 hours and then plus 50 minutes to practice all these papers. Just too much for me. What you should do is to try to do this. I'm going to do a practice in listening, and I'm going to look at the listening. I'm going to look at the keys, sorry, the marking scheme, and say, maybe I'm not very good at listening to long talks, but I'm very good at noting down, let's say, numbers and names. So I'm okay for part 1, part 2 in the in listening test, but I'm not very good at the last part, which is the lecture test. So I'm just going to focus on this. And not just that, I'm not very good at lectures, but I'm kind of easily get distracted, or I'm easily get confused when they say something and then they say, oh, no, I was wrong, and I say something else. So deliberate practice is really, really important. Figuring out where you feel short, all right? And very important, closer to the exams, I know that many of you is about to take exams, right? Closer to the exam, trying to mimic the real exam environment. You know why? Because if you can't do a full exams at home, 100%, you never get 100% in real exam. That's the truth, because, you know, when you are, when you go to an exam that is as long as like the IELTS test, right? 3 hours, if you keep practice for like 1 hour or 2 hours at home, your stamina has never been built for a very long period of sitting down and focus. So try to mimic a real exam environment, stress, duration, everything. All right. So you have to, like, what is it called? You have to give yourself enough time. So you have enough time for deliberate practice, and then closer to exam, try to do more real exam environment mimicking. All right. So there's also very, very important. If you want to test your understanding, teach it to someone else. So this is the Feynman technique, and it's also something that Einstein famously said. If you can't explain something simply enough, you do not understand it. So if you try to understand, let's say, a new, how can I say this? So let's give an example. If I've just learned something completely new in economics, let's say opportunity cost. The very first thing you learn in economics, right? But I kind of like, I think I got it. Yeah, but if I have, like, you know, a little brother or sister or nephew or niece, and they say, hey, you know, can you explain to me opportunity cost? And I'm like, I don't, and I can't explain it to him or her. That means that I need to really go back and try to read it again, try to explain it again to another person. Especially, it works even better if you explain it to somebody who has no expertise in that area. So that if you actually try, you know, with your brother, your younger brother, sister, that will be ideal, right? My professor, he actually told me, that he actually tried to go through his whole thesis with his father, who has no idea what the, you know, what's this thesis or, you know, the crazy thing is about. And he say, if anywhere you don't understand me, tell me, so that he took notes and he realized that he need to really simplify it, or he need to really relearn it. So I think that works for a lot of people. Why you can't, right? So the next system is habit formation. That is something that I'm really also very passionate about. If you're trying to do to learn something new, you should actually do it every day or every other day. And one of the important thing is called spaced repetition. So don't just cram everything with things like, okay, I'm going to spend 8 hours today just to learn this, right? At the end of the day, you'll forget most of it. So what you try to do is maybe you learn a little bit in the morning today, right? Let's say 1 hour. And then tomorrow you learn 1 hour. So you give your brain time to process, but you also, if you space it out, right? Every time you go back to that lesson, your brain starts to ask, hey, what was it last time? So you actually reinforce your memory. So sometimes if I look at my students' kind of timetable and they say, oh, I have a problem finding time to practice, I say, well, it's not the how long you practice, it's how strategically you practice or how strategically you learn. Don't just put 8 hours, space it out, because it actually helps you with memorizations and understanding. You can track your habits on apps and papers. I have a slide on recommendations of a app to track your habit. Make it obvious in front of you. I do print out a page of like habit tracking, and if every time I learn it, I just cross it out. I do not joke about that. I'm very serious about my habit tracking, because it takes about at least 60 days of continuous doing something to form a habit. So don't even think that you're gonna get sitting down and work like crazy for a few days and that becomes a habit. It's gonna get back to the normal routine very easily. If you think about learning something new, or if you want to kind of get better at something, put it in your schedule, right? So maybe you schedule it for 1 hour in the morning or in the afternoon. Try to tick it at the end of the day. If you read the book, is called Habits by Charles Duhigg, you will know about the science of habit formation. We keep doing the same thing over and over again because we see a cue. So a cue is, for example, whenever you see that, you suddenly do something, right? So whenever you see the word F, you suddenly click on it and then you just keep scrolling through newsfeed on Facebook. So the way I use it for my habit of learning is that I set a cue that if I want to start my work day, serious work, I'm going to get this, like, a very hot mug of tea. I'll just put it next to me and say, okay, start. And whenever I see it, I understand I am learning, right? Or I am working. So I need to focus, and it works. But what is your cue? Trying to figure out what's your cue so that you actually can keep doing that and get your mind into the idea that if you see this, you are in a focus mode, right? Take a habit challenge. I like habit challenge because, everything, if you gamify it, it makes it more fun. You can actually challenge your friends, say, hey, how about let's do, 5 days of really hardcore study at libraries. I did that with my friends at university. I say, if you go to the library, it doesn't matter when, call me, right? And my friend, actually, I still remember 2017, I was at I was doing my my time at Harvard, and I had a really crazy hard-working friend who say, Jenny, do you want to go to library? I'm like, it's 10 p.m., dude. And I say, no, okay, it's okay. I'll do it. I'll do it with you because I have a paper to write. So he said, yeah, let's do it. And I did. I survived until 2 a.m. Don't do it like me, but I'm saying that it's always good to actually have a friend to like nudge you, or maybe you would just nudge your friend back. It's good to have somebody to do it with you, partners in crime, right? So the next system that you need to build is a system of support. Nobody is alone in this world, and try not to be alone in this world. So the first thing first, if you have problems with your study, if you have problems that you don't understand something, don't just go and straight away ask your teachers or ask your friend. Why? I'm not saying that because you should be shy or should be, conservative about the questions. You should actually try to use all resources first, because it kind of really push your brain to the edge. Because when you push your brain to the edge and say, okay, I Googled it, I read this, I found the book, so I still don't get it. Then you go to the next step. You ask for help. Okay. I had these issues with my dad because I had a lot of problems with my math, like my math exercise and my math homework. And after 10 minutes, I said to my dad, oh, I can't do it. Can you help me? And my dad said, no, go back. You have to spend at least 30 minutes and come back to me. So after 30 minutes, it just straight away, I thought to myself, oh, right, because I need to spend a bit more time, or I may need to find a different kind of books. I need to find, a different resource to work it out myself. So once you work it out yourself, you feel better about yourself, that you can work it out yourself. But then also you train your brain to work harder. So the next time you are less dependent on your support network. But then you need to build your support network. Should keep a note of who knows what. So let's say, Tien asked, Bao asked about peer pressure. Well, if you know a friend A is good at maths, friend B is good at English, friend C is good at chemistry, note it down. So the next time you have questions about chemistry, you should go to friend C, right? Even better, create a team. Go to study together at a library, or maybe set a challenge together, or maybe just say to your friend, hey, I think this course is really cool. Let's do it together. Or maybe it's just let's attend this webinar together. It's actually kind of build your accountability, right? So you feel that you have to be there. You have to do it. Otherwise you will look bad in front of your friends. And one thing to bear in mind, I have a lot of students say, I'm afraid to ask my professors. I'm afraid to ask, other people. I can tell you, people like to be asked. But if you ask nicely, if you know how to ask nicely, people would really feel good about themselves when you ask them, because they feel that they know more. That's why you ask them, right? So give people a bit of flatter. Say, you know what? I know you know all about this. Can you help me? Then if you ask nicely, then people would love to help you, all right? So this is my system, my mind, my body, and it could be yours as well. Because I don't think that I have excelled. I'm not saying that this is also a disclaimer, I'm not the best student, I'm not the best teacher, but I find that there's tons of literatures writing about all of these techniques, all of these tips. Then I hope that you actually would be able to test for yourself if anything of this works. So what did I tell you? You came here to study smart, but I gave you too much work. So basically you have to study hard. Yes, nothing could replace, the commitment, the dedication to work. So you need to study hard. But also, if you know how to do it smarter, you get a better result at the end. And go back to the very beginning. It's all about you. If you want to do it, if you believe in yourself, and if you really have a good intention and have a good technique, you can study really, really well, right? So the last slides, I just want to give you a bit of recommendations. Some of the books that I really like, of course, there are many more out there, like the book by Carol Dweck about mindset, Cal Newport, highly recommend for deep work. And a Mindful Numbers by Barbara Oakley is also excellent for anyone who's interested in different neurological researches on how to improve your brain for study. Some of the apps I think very, very good for productivity. Like if you want to gamify your like in maths or physics or anything, you could try Brilliant. You can track your habit with Habitify. Or you could try Pomodoro using Focus Keeper. There are two courses that they're both free courses that will help you on how to learn. So how to study is the first course is super popular. It's called Learning How to Learn, also by Barbara Oakley. And the second course is on right now. It's called Cognitive Fitness by Harvard Health Publishing. So maybe if you don't take my word for it, try it for yourself, try different sources, read more, or even kind of enter a course on how to study. Hopefully it will help you. right? Thank you. You have any questions?
There are so many questions for you, Jenny. But just before we get to the Q&A, I think we've got about 50 minutes for the Q&A. So stay tuned with us. I just want to share the last slide just to recap in terms of our campaign, and just to remind you, if you want to donate, this is the link that you can get into, and then please show your support in order for us to reach our goal for the obviously for the campaign. Ooh, I think I get to. So yeah, so the slide here is going to show you again, literally just the QR code that you can use in order to get to our donation page. And just a reminder, every donation helps. So, and of course, wherever you are in the world, if you're from Vietnam or America, the donation page, even though it's set in the UK, but you can use your international credit card to make a payment easily. So yeah, show your support, and we would love to hopefully reach our target of £3,000 by the end of our campaign. And just also a reminder before I get back to the Q&A with Jenny is we run the sessions every Saturday and Sunday. So again, tomorrow we have another session at 3:30 again on how to do effective reading as well. So if you're interested, please join our Facebook page and also register for the webinar. So yeah, thank you so much for Jenny. I really like, I like the fact that, yeah, when it comes to study, it's not really just about you study for a subject, but it's really a very broad thing that you sort of really summarize it into. And I feel like I can apply it to literally everything I do, even in my sort of daily work as well. It's not just about studying a specific subject or not. And I like also your point about one of the best ways to do it is to teach other people. I find it really interesting, and I feel like I really need to apply that to when I do something as well, how to explain it to everyone that I know, which is something I feel like everyone can literally apply every day, and starting today or tomorrow to see improve your study and how to study smarter. So with the Q&A, I'm just gonna get back to, I'm gonna stop my sharing. And we will get back to the Q&A. So Jenny, do you see the Q&A as well?
Yeah, I can see there are some questions here. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the first question, for some reason, I can't click on the questions now. So do you mind just having a look?
Yeah, I could, if anyone wants to, what is it called, to ask the questions live, maybe you could actually type in the chat, and Sun will let you, will unmute you. Oh, right, yeah. So the first question, let me see. Wait, hold on. I'm looking through the questions that's been upvoted, right?
Yeah, so I'm gonna get, okay. Sorry. I think one of the questions that got most upvoted is from Tu Hang Huang, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna let Tu Hang talk now. Ooh, I think she probably not in the webinar anymore. So
okay,
yeah, let's just answer it live with everyone. So she asked, how you apply memory palace technique in learning language, and can you share your experiences in improving memorize?
Right, so maybe if you're aware of a very popular technique in kind of for memory champions is the memory palace. I have to be honest, you should be asking it with a memory master, a grandmaster rather than me, because I just use it very selectively instead of actually kind of use it to memorize everything. So I use it when I really need to use it, because I believe that you know, if you think about this, memory masters, the people who are very good at certain skills, but they are not in general can memorize everything, because otherwise you get to a a stage where your brain is way too tired, right? So you don't want to get that. And if you actually keep using it to memorize everything, then it's a bit too much work, and then you run out of the ideas of where to put it. So memory palace is basically, you think of a road, a room, or maybe a building that you are really familiar with, and you try to place the items or the things that you need to remember along the way. So you just like, if you want to memorize something, you put it along the way, so that when you go back to it, it's kind of very natural, just like you're walking through an old neighborhood and you're just picking things along the way. I use it to memorize, for example, a new notions, like something that really highly connected with each other. So I find that students in medicine, medical school students really love memory palace because they need to memorize so much about different anatomies, different body parts. I use it, for example, for like, you know, for example, I think of history, then for example, the history of World War II, then how do you memorize the whole history of World War II with so many events? So you would think about, like, you know, if you open the door to the first door in your house, then that door is actually about the very first events happened, or the first battle that happens there. And then you actually need to kind of animate it a little bit, make it a bit crazy, and think about very funny looking characters. But I can't say more than that, honestly. Right.
Okay, we got the next question is from Zhangchen about how to tackle broad subject topics. So I'm going to let Zhangchen talk now. Hello. I think I'm trying to. Hello.
Hello.
Ooh, yeah, it works now. Thanks.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, hello.
Hello. So my question is, that was all before the webinar, because the topic was about how to study smarter. So my question is about how to tackle a broad subject or a topic, because you only have so much time, and either you can learn the basics about kind of everything, just like, and I would say in a shallow way, slightly in a shallow way, just to get the idea, broad idea of every subtopic, or go into each subtopic into depth and properly master it, which obviously could be time consuming, slightly overwhelming, and you might not manage to cover the whole subject in a specific amount of time. So let's talk about you know, it could be related to revision, for example.
Right. So it's sort of like I don't know if I get it right, but it's sort of like questions about whether you would want to be a generalist or a specialist. So there's two sides of the questions I was thinking of. So if you want to be a generalist, then you would be a very interesting person to talk to, honestly, because you know a little bit about everything. But if you are a specialist, you are more employable because you know something in depth. So I have to say, right, first of all, nobody knows everything. So if you are a person who already has some sort of like a skill, an expertise in something, so let's say you're an accountant, you already a professional accountant, then yes, you know very well in that. But if you really want to kind of build up like the topic of the knowledge of the general knowledge, you know, topics and the trivia, then it's always good to pick about 3 to 5 books in one subject and try to read a little bit about that, instead of you really have to go in depth. I believe that it's good for your work because you will just become very interesting, and also it's good for your brain as well, because there is a research about how kind of other topics or branching out to other topics can help you reflect on your own topic. And that also works with Steve Jobs, who actually combined arts. So he learned about calligraphy, right? And then suddenly he reflected on, you know, how can I actually use that to apply on something I already know, like technology. So you may want to know a little bit, but you don't really need to go too deep into every single thing. Just pick one thing that you know very well and build, like, you know, a universe of like a little planets, right? Of a solar system of things that you want to know. Maybe that would help your work. if you think about going to exams, either you should be a generalist or specialist. If it's an exam, then you should know the structure of exam and what you're going to be asked for. And if you are results driven, then look at the things that you know is going to be tested. I am not a person who just learn about one thing in exam and expect that it's going to appear. I would rather divide myself into like give my time allocate time to each and every single topic. And I know that in exams, I think if you have a very cruel examiner who's going to test you on everything, that's bad. But if you have like a reasonable examiner, then he's not going to test you on everything.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that answers your questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Zhang. So I think, just in the conscious of time, I think we've got literally time for the last questions. So I'm just going to pick the most voted question that we haven't answered here, which is from Vân Lê. So I am going to allow Vân to talk now. So do let me know if you can talk. Hello, Vân.
Hi, Sam. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Everything.
Hello. Hi.
Hi,
guys. Hi, Jenny. A special thanks from me to you, because I think the session has been very useful so far, and I've definitely learned something that I would take away from myself as well. So I do have a question regarding some technology that we need to use nowadays. So I'm just curious that do you use any apps to help with studying, especially the ones around gamifying learning? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I'm not a gamer. I'm never into games. I don't like playing games. But I find that like a few bits of things in life could be actually classified as gamification. So if you put it as like, you know, a bit of challenge, like habit tracking, for example, you can use a habit tracker as a game, because, you know, every time you color on it, maybe put it in pieces of a puzzle, then it could actually help you. But I use, there's an app, it's called Anki. I don't know if you know it, ANKI. So Anki is an app, is actually, it helps you with your flashcard. So if you want to learn new words or new notions, new ideas, not notions, but sort of words in particular, if you think about language learning, if you want to learn new words, you can create your own flashcard, and then you create your own flashcard, and Anki would just help you shuffle it and try to challenge you every time. Then it would be really interesting because it helps you. I think Habitica, for example, would just gamify the idea of habit tracking, because you need to grow your characters and use your character to fight off other characters. And if people fell short of their habit tracking, then you win the game. So it's the two apps that I actually use. I can see, I know time is up, but I can see one question I find that's very interesting. It's called, it's from Tue Vo. Tue, you here?
Let me allow her to talk and unmute her. Okay, Tue, can you hear us now, and can you let us know if you can talk?
Yes, because thank you very much for your talking today. It's very useful for myself and especially for my daughter, who is 12 years old this year. And actually, she likes to listen music when she study. So I want to ask you that is as a good habit when studying. So she also in the talking now and listen to your advice. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. I do the same as well, and sometimes I wonder if that works or not.
Yeah, I mean, imagine yourself in a cafe. Do you work better in a cafe? It's what people, you know, they call background noise. So a lot of people like to have a bit of background noise to help you study. I say there's a study, of course, I'm not saying this must be a consensus study about everybody, but there's a research study about whether actually having some sort of background music would really help you with your focus. It does, but there's a few conditions. First of all, it must be a very, very soft music, maybe a bit of classical music, maybe some sort of what we call cafe music that you have at home, as long as it's not too noisy and it's not to the point where you actually feel like, oh, I need to listen to the lyrics. Yes, of course, no lyrics will be perfect. So I was growing up listening to classical music a lot when I was studying, but I find that there are certain times that you cannot have music at the back. First of all is writing. So when you're trying to write something very, very important, you need the whole brain to shut down from the outside world so that you actually can focus on absorbing and try to pull out the information from your brain to write it down. So because writing is a very difficult process. The second time when I don't really have music in the background is when I try to listen to lectures. So like, especially when you do online learning, right? I actually experienced a student on my webinar, for example, they were in a cafe and they think, oh, I can still listen to her. No, you can't, because there's this kind of really contrasting thing at the same, it's clashing basically. So and the third time is basically when you try to test yourself in exams. And when you try to test yourself in an exam, you need to really mimic the real exam environment, and you can't have any music on. Yeah, the rest of it is just the choice of music. I do have a long list of music in my in my YouTube list that I could use it for work when I want to. But yeah, it could be helpful, but try and test.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think the rest of it would be kind of very general questions, but I try to quickly go through it. If you want to hang around. Okay, so the first question from Duk Zong is about, I'm interested in many subjects, can't really settle down. I want to pursue a research career and I cannot choose one field. Would you kindly give me a piece of advice on this problem? I'm sorry, I have the same issues. I am a researcher, so I'm interested in other things as well. I believe that, I think we should all learn it from someone else. Maybe if VitPro can invite another speaker who knows how to specialize. I'm a generalist because I feel like life could be more interesting that way. But think about this, it's you're gonna be an interesting person to talk to if you know economics, finance. Well, economics and finance could be sort of like complementing each other. Psychology would be very, very good for you to know about psychology if you want to become an economist. So how about you think about what kind of, the gray area or the interdisciplinary area that you could actually do two things at the same time. So I'm taking an example. I'm interested in sociology and also interested in understanding economics. So I really put my time in understanding social network analysis. So I could actually use sociology, understanding and philosophy in economics. So maybe if you're interested in psychology and economics, you can study something like behavioral economics, right? So the resource for studying, websites, books, apps, e-courses, it can be overwhelming. Yes. So what I normally do, and I really want to share this with you, to be honest, that I have an Excel sheet that if I want to learn a topic, then what is the textbook that I really need to master or really need to understand? That's 1 or 2 textbooks. What are the core reading for that? And if there is 1 or 2 single websites that has that's highly recommended by my professors, and then if I find that those are not really yet help me with my study, then I would just branch out to the bookshops and trying to find the books or the e-course that help me. So I prioritize in my Excel sheets that if I want to study this, I need to do this and this and this first before actually I go to other sources, right? So that way you understand the core before you actually understand too much of other things. And I find it's especially important, like I'm taking an example in economics. So student who study A-levels or university level economics will find that economics at university is just very narrow-minded. But then suddenly the students are exposed to like, oh, there's a whole new world out there. Then the students got, branch out too much. So I find that in order for you to have very high, high exams results, first of all, learn everything that you should learn at university or school first. Once you master it, you go to other sources before you actually think, oh, there's a whole new world out there, right? Stress, I already answered it. I say, I really train myself to understand that even when I sleep, I'm helping myself. So if I'm deeply in stress, like yesterday, I had a really, really, really important webinar, and I was in deep stress. My body was shaking before that. I went to sleep 20 minutes, and I wake up, feel a lot more calm. So I feel like maybe if you're way too stressed, try to really calm yourself by walking out of it. If you really stress out, just walk out of it. Just like argument. If you have an argument with yourself or with others, just walk out of it or go to sleep, right? Yeah, I hope that's it. Is there any more questions? I'm very creative with ideas, my projects. Most of them fail, cannot find my core team. Someone close to you will not have the capacity to work in my field. If someone has, I'm not close to them. Turns out I tried to do on my own, but also fail. What should I do? I'm not an expert in teamwork. I work in teams a lot, but I find that sometimes I prefer to work on my own. There's one thing that I learned from kind of my senior. He said to me that if you know that everybody could have some sort of knowledge more than you do, because everybody knows a little of something else that you don't, think about that positive side. So for example, if you're at university and you have you are assigned a team that you know that there's 4 other people just absolutely just too lazy to work, try to find out what they are really good at. So for example, they will say, oh, I don't know anything about this, but I can do PowerPoint. Then try to get that, and maybe just share a little bit of work by saying that, okay, how about I'm going to write something and you're going to put it in PowerPoint. So you actually kind of subtract or divide the work with other people. Then that would help a little bit. I'm not very good at teamwork, so maybe you'll find a book on that. There's a questions about which one is more effective, study late at night or early in the morning. There's questions about whether you're an early riser or you're a night owl. I find that when I was younger, I was a night owl, and now I'm an early riser. So I have to say, when it's most quiet. So when you feel like it's the perfect environment for you. If you try to work at night for, let's say, a week, and then you find that next morning you feel too tired, then maybe it's not working for you. But if you find that if you wake up very early and you find, oh, you're in the zone and you're a little bit more productive, try that for maybe one for 1 week and the other for 1 week, and try to be really mindful about the effect of it. Maybe you'll find out what works better for you. Okay. I think it should be the last question. Tue asked that I would like to ask some tips and methods of reading English books, especially vocab is a key factor, and how can we train to read every day without feeling frustrated? We're required to read those books. Yes, I see the point. I see the point that when you actually new to English, all of your teachers say read books, but then you don't understand half of it. What should you do? I would say build up, right? So don't jump into a very major thick book like that straight away. Build yourself up. Start with something very, very short, very, very simple, like comic books, right? Just think of yourself like a little child. So the little child, even if they're born in the UK, they still need to start from very simple, easy reading book. And then you build yourself in, let's say, something very simple and you really enjoy, like comic books. And then you can actually start with simple, you know, a little bit more complex chapter books, and then you can start thinking about more science non-fiction books. But if you are asked to read, like straight away, you need to ask to read something seriously long, I find that I would skip the vocabs that I find that is just filling. So it's just there for the fact of to impress you or just to fill in the blanks. But if you find a new word that you absolutely have to get in order to understand the rest of their chapter, then you only search for the meanings of those words only. So don't search for every single word, right?
And yeah, just to add on, tomorrow we have a sessions on how to do effective reading. So if you're interested in that, please join us. I'll see you again at tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. as well.
Yeah, that could be very helpful for many of people here, isn't it? I think I sort of answered the last questions by Anne about how to strategize your learning and when you learn something new. There's one sentence I keep in my head when I want to branch in something new. I am branching into something new right now, and I find that I keep thinking, why did I start? Right? Why do I really want to learn this? And if I just learn it because it's cool, or because my friend does it, or because, you know, it's popular, then I don't think it's going to sustain me through all the difficulties in learning this. But if I say, well, I'm going to learn it because it's required for my job, then yes, it works. Or if you say, I'm going to learn it because I'm going on a trip to Japan that I need to know Japanese, something like that, then you already bought the ticket, then why not? It's absolutely cool to do it. But you should know why you started something, but also what is your realistic goal. So if you learn something new, do you really want to become a professional in that? Like, you know, you want to kind of change your career into something absolutely new, or you just want it to kind of complement what you already have? Then your goal, when it is, you know, realistic, then you will feel it to be, you know, less torturing in a way.
Perfect. I think we literally went through every single questions now. So
yeah.
For taking the time to answer every single questions. It was really helpful. And what's a better way to end the sessions when you're really saying, yeah, the learning is really about you and is really what you want, not just because it's cool or anything. So I really hope everyone find it helpful. You can learn from it, you can practice, you can apply something that Jenny has said for all your learning, for your own development right today or tomorrow when you go back to work. So thank you a lot for taking the time, and thank you for being a part of our campaign. And
thank you, VitPro, and I hope that everybody should start donating using the Just Giving page on VitPro. Yeah.
We have the link again to the chat section so people are reminded. But yeah, thanks a lot. And thanks to everyone as well. It's been a super interactive sessions, everyone raising loads of good questions and putting the chats as well. I'm really excited to see all of you guys again tomorrow and also other webinars. So please follow our Facebook page, and we've got to keep dating the next webinars with all other guest speakers as well. So thank you a lot again, and enjoy the rest of your very sunny Saturday afternoon here in London or wherever you are in the world. So thank you, and
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.